It's been a long time since we last saw Luther, and now Luther the Fallen Son is finally here, and everyone is talking about it. If you've already seen the crime thriller, you probably want to know when and if a sequel will be released. Fans of the BBC television show Luther were very sad to see their favorite DCI John Luther leave the show after its fifth and final season in 2019. However, he made a comeback this February in the film Luther the Fallen Son because of how well-liked the show was, following the character of DCI John Luther, who will do whatever it takes to apprehend a criminal. Luther the Fallen Son is a sequel to the BBC series Luther.
Detective Superintendent Schenk. We need to know where he is.
Look, I know he's in prison.
Ian Reid, I'm arresting you for the murder of Zoe Luther.
Following the conclusion of the original series, Luther is depicted in the Netflix film as being in prison, but the revival of a serial killer from Luther's past forces the disgraced detective to escape prison to complete the case. Of course, Robey's sadistic streaming days are over when Luther and his colleague DCI Raine find him in snowy Estonia. Raine's daughter Anya has been kidnapped and is held captive by the killer when Luther and Raine enter Robey's Red Room. Soon enough, he also has the two police officers in his grip and forces them to fight it out for Anya's life. Thanks to the information he learned from Robey's horribly scarred wife Georgia, Luther has a lucky break up his signature tweed overcoat. Luther pursues the killer as he runs away desperately while disclosing Robey's identity and his insecurities on the live stream. To escape Robey's incineration trap, Raine and Anya are left behind, and at the end of their chase, Robey drowns after falling beneath the ice of an icy lake with Luther. While this is going on, Schenk, an old friend of Luther's, picks him up and takes him to an unknown location. What comes after that? In some areas, the creative team is secretive, but not in others. But one thing is certain, even though Luther was incarcerated at the start of the movie, he isn't going back now. Although Robey has brought all of his dark secrets to light, he might have found another job opportunity that has unlocked its gleaming car door for him. Who exactly is making that job offer to him? As was already mentioned, Netflix has not yet confirmed Luther 2 or whatever it will be called, so we don't yet have an official release date. The streaming giant won't probably make its decision public for some time since the movie just came out. Before deciding whether to move forward with a sequel, Netflix must first determine how many people watch the film over a specific period. Typically, Netflix considers the number of times the film is reviewed in its first month on the service. The streamer will determine its course of action after adding up the viewing hours. Another Luther movie will probably be approved if the viewing numbers meet Netflix's requirements.
You could help. You know what they did to my son.
I need to stop this man.
He thought the humiliation of prison would be worse. The beatings, the rapes.
The decision-making process at Netflix is undoubtedly influenced by many other factors, including critical acclaim and production costs. However, the viewing hours are the most important. Therefore, without confirmation that a second Luther movie will indeed be made, it's difficult to say with any certainty when it will be released. The Fallen Son debuted 4 years after the final season of the show in 2019, and if a similar time lapse takes place, we might have to wait until 2027 to watch another Luther movie. We might see it sooner than that, perhaps as soon as 2025, if the movie is successful and Netflix wants to make a sequel quickly. Before I go any further, smash that like button if you haven't done it already. Given his enthusiasm for the part and the franchise, we would definitely expect to see Idris Elba return for a second movie outing, even if he does eventually see someone else taking over the role. Naturally, expect Dermot Crowley to reprise his role as Martin Schenk, since he is the only other character to have appeared in both the television series and the movie. Cynthia Erivo could also return as Luther's replacement, DCI Odette Raine. After developing a newfound respect for Luther by the end of the film, there could be a spot for Patrick Malahides, George Cornelius, Paul McGann's Mark North, or even characters from earlier seasons like Sienna Guillory's Mary Day or Amy Fionn Edwards' Jenny Jones when it comes to characters moving over the series. Of course, for the time being, all of this is just speculation, but it seems like some characters might return if a second Luther movie is approved. Even though Luther the Fallen Son picks up where the Tyler BBC TV series left off, there are still some unresolved issues by the end of the Netflix film. And since the Netflix film appears to herald DCI John Luther's comeback, it means that the unanswered questions from Luther the Fallen Son may eventually be addressed. Although David Robey's horrific abduction and murder of Callum Aldrich is the main focus of the Fallen Son, Callum's fate is never made clear. The Netflix film begins with Callum at work when Robey, the antagonist from the Fallen Son, calls and tells him to meet up. Later, Callum is reported missing, and DCI John Luther is given the case before being apprehended and imprisoned. Robey forces Luther to listen to a recording of Callum's murder while he's locked up. demonstrating how horrifying it was. Though Callum's abduction and murder are the main topics of The Fallen Son, what Robey had against Callum is not entirely clear. The film offers various hypotheses, even though what exactly happened to Callum isn't made clear. Since Robey also commits other similar crimes in The Fallen Son, it can be assumed that he may have tortured Callum in a manner akin to how he tortured Luther, Anya, or his wife, Georgette.
I'm still a copper.
Not anymore. And if you refuse to stand down, tactical unit will shoot you dead.
Come along with me. There we go.
In contrast, Callum's mother suggests to Luther that what happened to Callum must somehow be worse than the other crimes Robey commits because it's something unspeakable. What Robey did to Callum is one of Luther, the Fallen Son's biggest mysteries, given its allegedly unspeakable nature. The police initially tried to apprehend both Luther and Robey at first, so Luther's imprisonment is something working against him throughout the film. Although the police eventually start assisting Luther in catching Robey, it's obvious that Luther will ultimately need to go back to prison to complete a sentence once the criminal has been caught. One of the biggest mysteries in Luther, the Fallen Son, is why the former DCI Luther didn't go back to jail at the conclusion of the film. It appears that catching Luther was a priority given the amount of time and effort DCI Raine was devoting to getting Luther locked up again, so it is odd that he walks free. Because of his role in capturing Robey, it appears from the conclusion that Luther's crimes were forgiven. It's unclear why Luther doesn't return to prison, though, and since this is never explicitly stated, The Fallen Son leaves a significant gaping hole in its explanation. Government representatives soon arrive and ask to speak with Luther after he weakens at the safe house at the conclusion. They open the car door for Luther and invite him to join them after complimenting him on a job well done. Off the record, Luther smiles at this, suggesting that the government's intentions towards him are good. However, since the movie ends right after this scene, it's never made clear what will happen to Luther next. One of Luther, the Fallen Son's biggest unanswered questions, along with the fact that Luther didn't go back to prison after catching Robey, is what the government's intentions were with the former DCI. When they get there, Schenk speculates that maybe they have a job offer for Luther, which is possibly why Luther seems happy to go with them to smash that subscribe button and notification bell, so you'll never miss any of our videos in the future. However, since it hasn't been confirmed, viewers can't be certain of what Luther's future will entail following the events of Luther, the Fallen Son. Regardless of their motives, Luther's run-in with the government representatives paves the way for future adventures for him, where perhaps the mysteries left hanging from the Netflix film will be unresolved. See you in the next video.